Hello, everybody. Welcome to today's installment of HoloNets Movie Reviews. Today, we're going to review three movies that I saw in the last month. I've just haven't had time to actually sit down and do the movie reviews. Uh, but we're going to review Lilo and Stitch. We're going to review Mission Impossible, Final Reckoning, and we're going to review Karate Kid Legends in that order. It's the order I saw them. Um, yeah, so let's begin. So, first, I saw these movies. I saw a couple other movies. I finally watched Minecraft. I watched Anyone But You. Ironheart's currently coming out. I only saw the first episode. I am gonna watch those, but for right now, I'm gonna get to those eventually. But I want to catch up on the movie reviews before Superman comes out because that's gonna be a big, just blowout episode. Uh, so yeah, so we're going to do. We're gonna start. We'll start with Lilo and Stitch. So there's a few things with Lilo and Stitch that I really did like. Sorry, before I continue, full spoilers. I know these movies are, like I said, about a month old already, a little longer. Um, so I know a lot of people have already saw them, but again, for people who haven't, this is completely open spoiler. Anything that happens, I'm not going to get into each of them too much because I really just want to wrap up my overall thoughts, but it will be completely open spoilers, so you might hear anything. Okay. So with Lilo and Stitch, I enjoyed it. I know a lot of people were on the edge, but a lot of people didn't think that, it didn't follow the guides of the animated movie to a T. Now I'm torn with that because I believe that animated movies should follow what happens. Live action adaptations should follow their animated movies almost to a T. But a lot of people that I see complaining are the same people that'll say, you just remade the animated movie into live action. There's nothing new. Why would I spend my money to go see it? So I believe that it's okay if there's a little difference. With Lilo and Stitch, there's no Captain Gantu, which is a big part of the story, which you could tell he was missing, which I was upset he was missing because I always liked Captain Gantu. But it was just it wasn't they covered it well enough for me to still enjoy the movie and not feel like there's too much missing. Um, the Pleakley was actually probably the perfect casting. His voice was good when he was Pleakley, but when he was in human form, because they didn't do the dress up that they did in the original one, but when he was in human form, he still played real well, and I think everything worked. Um, Jumba Galifianakis was just all right. That was probably my least favorite thing. He didn't look the best. He didn't sound like Jumba. He didn't have that heavy accent. He wasn't deep voice. He was high pitched. He just didn't feel like Jumba. But they kept that consistent throughout the movie where it is the same as the animated. Overall, I enjoyed Lilo and Stitch. I thought that Lilo and Stitch had a lot of good things about it. The music was great. The acting was great. The girl who played Lilo was adorable, and for her to be that young and acting with practically nothing, as in Stitch, she did a great job. The whole cast overall was real enjoyable. The movie overall was all enjoyable. For the people saying, "Oh, well, they completely disregarded what Ohana meant and she went to college." She didn't leave the family. The whole Ohana is that you never leave family behind. She didn't leave them behind. She stayed there every day because you could tell in the end credit scene that there's the portal gun. And I don't know. I don't understand people's claims. Oh, well, they destroyed the meaning of Ohana because really they didn't. I think fans could get real, you know, picky and choosy over what they destroy, what they don't. I think personally, like I said, I don't love everything that everybody does all the time. I don't want to come off like that, but there are real things to complain about with that movie, and there are things that, you could take and, understand where they're going. And this her going to college thing is one thing you could understand. Now the Jumba thing, like I said, that was kind of dumb. I wish they did it differently. Um, but the CGI and the cinematography of that movie was beautiful. I think the acting was great. Writing I thought was pretty good. There's a few things I thought throughout the movie that I was like, yeah, maybe I wouldn't have heard. Can't tell you exact scenes or exact moments, but overall, I enjoyed the movie. I know a lot of people didn't, and I know, and that's okay. I mean, it happens, but I happen to enjoy it, and I really liked Lilo and Stitch. I I like the marketing for that movie. I think all the trailers, all the posters, they tapped into the early 2000s Stitch infiltrating all the other Disney movies, him with the magic carpet, him with the Cinderella slipper, him with the rose from Beauty and the Beast, like how it used to feel when you used to watch a Disney movie and before Lilo and Stitch were coming out and the DVDs, the commercials would have Stitch infiltrating while there was one that I'll always remember and it was the Little Mermaid singing, and then Stitch rides in on his surfboard and drenches her in water. And like it was just they went back to that type of marketing, and I think they did a great job. I thought Stitch was adorable. He was funny. I was laughing throughout the entire thing. So that's a movie that it's like I don't think you need to run to the theaters to see. I saw it opening day in theaters, but I don't think you need to run to the theaters to see that movie. It's one of those movies like Snow White, which I still haven't seen, which I plan on seeing, that you could wait for Disney Plus and you could watch it there. Um, so Lilo and Stitch, I won't rate it. I do that all on my Instagram. I won't rate it here. I just think overall that it was a decent enough movie. Now Mission Impossible. So Mission Impossible 2 days later, and there were things about Mission Impossible that I really enjoyed. I'll say what I gave this one for Instagram. I think I gave it 7.5 or 8 out of 10. I don't when I criticize movies, I try and give it a rating, but really I don't go all the way to give it a rating. But for Mission Impossible, and I'll tell you why it wasn't as good as even Dead Reckoning or wasn't as good as Fallout. Um, better than I did the list a few episodes ago about all Mission Impossibles. I wouldn't know where I would rank this one. I'd have to wait till it comes out and I'd have to watch again because it didn't feel like a final reckoning. It didn't feel like the end. I think it was lacking in a lot of the suspense and a lot of the wow factors that Mission Impossible has. There's a bug. Sorry. So one thing that Mission Impossible does all the time that I enjoy are the stunts. We've talked about this in the episode, the Mission Impossible episode. The stunts of this movie were great. I cannot complain about a single stunt. They were all really cool. Everything looked awesome. Everything felt so real, and stunts were super enjoyable. But when I get to the story or the writing or the little breakdowns of each scene, there were a lot of things that I had problems with. You could tell Tom Cruise is getting older. I think I said this in the episode, but his running, it wasn't like previous movies, and that's okay. It happens. But the story was like just lacking so much to make it like this big and suspenseful like bang and closed curtains. It was very predictable. Uh, Luther dies, which was probably the worst, saddest, worst part, whatever. But I kind of didn't care that Luther dies because they didn't really make me care. It was like, yeah, we see him in the hospital, or not the hospital, but his little emergency room that they built just for him, that Benji and Ethan and Luther built just for him. But he still did his work down there. Um, and then he dies, but they didn't make it sad. I mean, yeah, they put a bomb there and he sacrificed himself so Ethan could get out and Ethan could actually stop the entity. But I just couldn't feel sad, and it was sad to me that I couldn't feel sad because Luther was one of my favorite characters throughout the saga, the series, and for it not to make me feel anything when he died, kind of was a letdown. I feel like they built up suspense to so many people dying, and nobody died. And it kind of felt like not that people need to die, but they built it up and then it kind of didn't resolve in any way, so it kind of was a letdown. Um, I think my favorite parts were when they got to was it the Arctic, Antarctica. It was one of those, and they meet up with the scientists from or the agent from the first movie when Tom Cruise was let down into the vault. That the person who was sent there was the person who was in the room that picked up the knife, and he gave the knife back. And he ended up being a key factor. And I like how they really tied that in because that really did make it feel like it is one big series and not standalone movies. Each adventure is standalone until later movies. But but they set it up for him or his wife to die. That never happened. Um, the one guy, I can't think of their names right now, but in Dead Reckoning, there was the main police officer or the FBI or whoever who was working with the younger African American guy who was also an FBI. The younger guy was working with Ethan Hunt and the crew, but they also made it seem like he was going to die and he never died. It was a big mess of everything. It turns out that the one FBI agent or CIA or whatever who was after Ethan in Dead Reckoning was the son of the first movie's villain, and he believed that the that Ethan was in the wrong all the time, and then he ended up working with Ethan, or not working, but accepting that Ethan wasn't in the wrong, But it didn't feel like boom. It felt like they're gonna bring everything together for no reason. I still haven't seen Jurassic World Dominion, but it felt like everybody was thrown into one movie just to pay them off, and they weren't really payoffs at all. Um, the whole president stuff was kind of lacking the story overall. Um, I think there was a lot of things that they threw in there that they just needed to fill up time. It was almost a 3 hour movie. That movie could have been finished in an hour and a half if they took out all the unnecessary scenes. And I think that was the problem is that they used a lot of unnecessary stuff to fill up time that wasn't needed to fill up because they could have taken, like I said, they could have made it an hour and a half, 2 hour movie instead of almost 3 hours. I think it was like 249, 250. Um, and they could have made the story they could have enhanced the story by actually making it, you know, important. It felt like half of it wasn't important. And it was a shame because, again, Dead Reckoning built up this whole thing. If that was me, if I was in charge, and I like to say I'm a writer because that's what I like to do. I write a lot, but I'm no professional. Um, but if I had to decide where the movies go, this Final Reckoning movie would have actually been where I put Dead Reckoning. And then Dead Reckoning change around obviously the endings of the movie and what happens a little bit in between, but I would have changed it around. So Dead Reckoning is the final part because that one was just so much more suspenseful and like gut wrenching at some points and just action packed. That was what I felt like a final Mission Impossible. Now, like I said, I'd obviously switch the endings to make it line up so it doesn't feel like Final Reckoning is the end and then Dead Reckoning is just a cliffhanger. You know what I mean? But I don't think that Final Reckoning was the perfect closure. Although at the end, and this is the last thing I'll say, I really liked when Ethan walked into the crowd of people. And, it was a crowded, I think it was London, but it was a crowded London street. And as he's walking through, he looks around and he sees all of his team members. The younger guy, Benji, Agent Carter, what's her name in the movie? Oh my gosh, I'm blanking. Haley Atwell. Haley Atwell, they're all looking at him. They're all like, thank you, and kind of saying thank you like a payoff. And he's looking around, seeing this his team, and they all walk their separate ways and they disappear into the crowd. Cinematography for that was awesome. I loved how they did those scenes. And then Ethan walked away, and I really did like that payoff, but I also think that it was again kind of pointless. I mean, it didn't feel like an end the whole movie, and then to make the last scene feel like it's over, how Ethan Hunt walks into the crowd, never to be seen again, whatever they're going for. It it was not like it didn't feel like an ending the whole time, so don't make it feel like an ending at the end. That's the only thing I thought. Although, again, it was a Mission Impossible movie. I enjoyed it. I had fun sitting in the theater watching it. Like right out of there, I'm like, wow, Mission Impossible, this movie was great. After thinking about it, again, I'll have to rewatch it and maybe I'll do a short little thing in one of my episodes about saying, hey, this is what I fully think after rewatching it. But until I get to rewatch it, this is kind of where I'm at. don't get me wrong, I liked the movie, I liked the characters, I liked the acting, I liked, like I said, the stunts and the cinematography. Like it was all a decent movie. I can't sit here and just say I hated the movie or anything like that. There's just some things that I would have done differently. But I know a lot of people who saw it and who did like it, or people who saw it and thought differently. Again, that's great. I need to talk to more people who did because I just want to see what they think. And finally, Karate Kid Legends. So I'm still rewatching Cobra Kai season 5. I'm a huge Karate Kid person, huge Cobra Kai person. I was gonna do a whole episode, but because of vacation, I just didn't have time to actually record. Um, this movie was great. It was a great movie, but it was just a generic Karate Kid movie. I love the movie. I love Ben Wang in it. Lee Fong was fantastic. LaRusso, they marketed it as a LaRusso heavy movie, but Daniel wasn't really in it. I mean, he was in it. He played a part. He played an important part, but he wasn't the main focus like the trailers let on. And I really did enjoy that. I felt like this needed to be a Lee Fong movie, but it was just the opposite of what happened in Jaden Smith's movie. Jaden Smith in his movie moved to China, and Mr. Han found him, and Mr. Han taught him. Um, Lee Fong moves to America, and he moves to New York because his mother's job, same thing opposite. It was Jaden Smith's mother's job. Dre's mother, right, got a job in China, and they moved, and it was the same thing opposite. And then Lee Fong found a boxer there who was his girlfriend's father, and kind of they helped train each other because Lee Fong was already very skilled in kung fu. Um, so when it went to the boxing, Lee Fong helped the boxer actually train and stuff, and it kind of worked as a two-way street. They'll help each other. While this girl, the boxer's daughter, was Lee's girlfriend. Um, and then Mr. Han flies in, and Mr. Han is like, "Yeah, I heard you're, blah blah blah, whatever. I wanted to see you. Let me train you some more. Let me get you into this fight so the bully doesn't beat you." Then he flies to California. He gets LaRusso. LaRusso doesn't go at first, and then he agrees. He goes, and it's like, "Oh, we need to teach Miyagi family karate to this young boy named Lee, who's gonna." It was a generic Karate Kid movie. Great, great shots, great the action was awesome. The kung fu karate mix was great. I really did enjoy it, but again, it was just another Karate Kid. Um Jaden Smith Karate Kid, the first Karate Kid. It really was just the same. And again, it enjoyable, but there's not much to say because I've seen this movie done two other times in the same franchise alone. The Karate Kid one, and then the Karate Kid with Jaden Smith. Um there were things I liked. The boxing scene was cool. But there was a scene where you give me I'm gonna point this together, put this together. It was it was a scene that Lee did, I will say. I can't think of the exact scene, but it was one of the things that Lee went through that was just like it was super cool. Then you got to see, I think you saw LaRusso and Han team up once and beat up some not kids but adults or whatever. It was overall it was a decent enough movie. Um, Again, I liked it. I can't complain about it because I did enjoy it. This is just, it was the same thing. Um, there was there was the scene at the end, which was Johnny. Daniel goes back to California. He's sitting at Miyagi-Do Karate, and they make a joke about the pizza place that the boxer owned, and Johnny was eating pizza and was like, "Ooh, we should make a Miyagi pizza company, a business, or whatever it was." Stupid. It was silly. It was fun. I enjoyed the movie. I thought the action was good, and just the scenes on top of the final scene, the Five Boroughs fight where the bully is fighting Lee on top of the building. It looked perfect. There's one thing that I was talking to my father about right after, which was they did this weird animation thing right at the beginning and then again right at the end, which was real cool. I thought it looked really cool, but they like put it in to illuminate everything, But then you didn't see it again until the end, and then they put it in, and that it just didn't make sense because it was gone for so long. I thought it looked cool. It was just either you put it throughout the movie, spread it here and there, or you don't put it at all. And I think if they did what they did, they should have just taken it out completely and called it a day. But they put it in and they should have went throughout if they were going to do it. But overall, again, I liked the movie. I liked the shots. I liked the fighting. It was solid movie. Great addition to the franchise. I can't complain. Uh, I remember exactly what I was going to talk about. So Lee was talking to Mr. Han, right? It wasn't really a Lee scene. There was a Lee scene with the action that I was talking about, but there was a scene where you find out that Mr. Han and Miyagi had some relation to a previous sensei or a couple previous senseis, but that I think Miyagi actually learned the karate, or Miyagi sensei learned the karate from China from someone close to Han's something. Again, that's something else to see the actual uh, fine details. I'd have to rewatch the movie. I'm waiting for that to come out because I definitely want to see it again. Um, but overall, it was interesting to build more on this Miyagi lore that was built so much in the final seasons of Cobra Kai with his necklace, his mother's necklace, how the murder, with everything. So it was, like I said, solid movie. It was really enjoyable. I liked Lee a lot. Lee was a great character. Maybe we'll see more of Lee. Maybe this is the end of Karate Kid for now. Who knows? Overall, like I said, great movie, really enjoyable. Um, but yeah, so in next week sometime, I gotta review two movies. I gotta review Minecraft because I saw it and I got some stuff to say. Um, and I gotta talk about a little bit about Anyone But You. That'll be like a quick little thing at the beginning because I also enjoyed that movie. Um, I want to start talking more about movies that I just see anywhere, not just theater movies. Same with TV shows. I want to talk about past TV shows. I'm finally watching through Gen V. I'm enjoying it. I got to talk about that once I finish it. Excuse me, Ironheart. Like I said, is coming out. I'm almost done with the Bad Batch season 3. I got to watch. Wow, hiccups. I got to finish that and then I could talk about that. So there's a few things that I definitely want to talk about. There will be an episode tomorrow. Um, And there's another video that's coming out shortly in the next few days. It's going to take time to edit and completely finish it. But that one will be fun. And tomorrow will also be a fun episode. I got to plan some stuff out, finish planning some stuff out, but that'll be fun. But yeah, like I said, there's a few movies. And then next week, we're going to do all Superman, everything right before I go see the early Amazon screening on July 8th. So, other than that, that's all I really had. I will definitely post some movie reviews, probably on Instagram. Maybe little clips. I have to see. I really have to get my Instagram and TikTok up and running. It's been a long process to get all that, but also I've been super busy with summer classes with, like I said, completely fixing up this. I'm getting a shelf on Wednesday. It's supposed to come. It's actually coming this time, and I could be able to decorate a lot more, put stuff up. So yeah, so I'm real excited. There's just a lot of nitty-gritty stuff that I have to work on, but hopefully in the next few weeks there's going to be more stuff running and everything's going to be a lot smoother. But anyways, thank you all for watching. I will see you tomorrow. Bye bye.